The Vindolanda writing tablets are some of the most precious objects to come from the site. These thin sheets of wood, about the size of a modern postcard, actually have the written letters from the past on them and give us a fantastic glimpse to what was going on here nearly 2,000 years ago. They are paper thin and wet when excavated, so they have to be taken very careful care of throughout our conservation process. The ink is actually also illegible most of the time when they're first found, and they then, after the conservation, have to be photographed with infrared photography. Let's take a closer look at what happens between the archaeological trench and the specialist research. Once the tablet is excavated, we actually bring it down to our on-site conservation labs. This is really important because they're paper thin and very wet when first found, and if we don't get them into the conservation process within minutes, we can actually lose this very important information that they contain.
And what we've got in this little box here, underwater, being very careful because it's so fragile, are 1 or 2 pages of an ink writing tablet sandwiched together. You see the 2 pages there? Less than 1 millimetre thick. These are some of the most rare things and some of Britain's top treasure, and some of my guys here today have found a part of an ink document. Now this is going to start a long process of conservation. It's going to be under conservation for months.
The first step in the conservation process is to actually remove the mud and the muck from the excavations. To do this, we use fine brushes and water. Some of the tablets, the very best tablets, are actually what we call confronting tablets. This means that 2 sheets of wood are actually put together. And in this conservation process, we have to slowly peel the tablets apart. But the good thing about this is that the writing that is in between these tablets can come out looking just perfect. We had the opportunity to work with confronting tablets in 2017. The excavations found some of the tablets that were from the archive of the first commanding officer here at Vindolanda. His name was Julius Veracundus, and he was the commanding officer for the first cohort of Tungrians. We had a number of tablets that came down from this horde, but the first one I worked on was actually a confronting tablet, and when I slowly peeled it apart, I was able to see the name of the sender, a gentleman by the name of Masculus. It was an absolute joy to be able to see this, knowing that no one else had seen it since it went into the ground nearly 2,000 years ago. Once the tablet is cleaned, then it has to go into its chemical baths. To do this, it first goes into a bath of water with some methylated spirits. As it goes through progressive baths, it gets higher and higher levels of methylated spirits until it's at 100% meths. The next bath it goes into is to some ether to remove the meths. Once it's finished with the chemical process, it is actually put on acid-free tissue, like you can see here, in between 2 sheets of glass. The next stage in the process is to have the tablets photographed with infrared photography. Back in 1973, when the first tablets were found, Robin Birley was able to actually see the ink just after they came out of the ground, but after a few hours the ink had disappeared. Robin took the tablets to Newcastle University's medical labs, and they were photographed with infrared technology. This helped the text to show up in the images after the tablets were photographed, and we still use the basis of that technology today. We use infrared photography on the tablets because the ink actually shows up within the near infrared spectrum. We have visible light, and then right next to it is the infrared light, and these light waves we can't see but actually are picked up within the photography. This tablet here is an excellent example as to why using the infrared is so important. If you look at it now, it looks like a couple of sheets of wood and doesn't look like there's much writing on it. But if you see it here, you start to see the fabulous bits of writing on it. And this helps us to decipher what's actually there. So without the infrared technology, we wouldn't be able to get all of this fantastic information, and it would just be lost. When the tablets were first photographed, we used infrared film and a 4x5 camera. This was black and white film and highly sensitive to light, so everything had to be done in complete darkness. It made it quite a complicated process. Once the film was developed, then we used an enlarger and high contrast paper in order to actually develop the images. Once we were able to give the pictures to the specialists, they would say, can this be moved just a little bit this way? Can this be moved just a little bit that way? And we'd have to retake the photographs. This could actually take quite a lot of time. In recent years, we've moved on to digital photography, and we use this Fujifilm camera in order to take the photographs. This makes everything much easier. The camera has been specially adapted by Fuji and is actually used for crime scene investigations and medical uses. And it's had its mirror removed, which means that it can see more than just visible light. We then use these PECTA infrared filters, which actually block out all of the visible light that would come through. And what's left is an image that is an infrared image. Once the image is taken digitally, then there's a little bit of post-processing that I do. Basically, this is to increase the contrast and make it easier to read the actual tablets. The photographs are then passed on digitally to our epigraphers. These are the people that do the slow process and work on the translation of each and every single letter on the tablet. They often come back to me and ask me if a tablet can be slightly aligned or moved a little bit, or this bit can be brighter, and that's the next process that I have to go through. But this is really good because now that we can use digital, this is a much faster process. This film has given you a little bit of information about what happens to the tablets behind the scenes. We do have a few of these very precious documents on display here at the museum, and hopefully sometime you'll be able to come and visit and see them yourselves. We also have more information about the process that we go through in order to find, discover, and interpret these. We hope that with further excavations that we might be able to find more tablets that will give us more amazing information about what life was like in the Roman period.